I was at work and I was falling asleep and my phone rang. It was an Android phone and no one answered. It was my sister and she's like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Ray's mother passed away. And it's like Ray's my brother-in-law, so I mean I didn't really know like what to do, so I asked my coworkers, should I text him or whatever. So what I ended up doing was, on the advice of my boss, just call him. So I called him. I went in the little room. I picked it up, and Marine, I could hear his voice, hello. And he's like, I'm sorry for the loss. And then, I waited for his response. I was like, it was fine, ATT. I couldn't hear what the fuck he said. The connection was that bad, and I couldn't say anything because I couldn't tell him to repeat it. So I just kind of like said, all right, I'll see you soon. And it was the most awkward 30-second phone call of my life. But after that, we kind of got the logistics together, and we realized that we would have to go to the wake, even though I guess we won't really see each other at the wedding, which was like 7 years ago. But so we went up, and it was kind of hard to find. It was in Union City, New Jersey, and since my sister, I guess she was coming in from New York City, we would have to use the GPS. And when I drive with my mom and dad, using the GPS is very difficult. Because first of all, my mom and my dad caresses the GPS in his lap. I can't see the damn screen. Sometimes he presses the button and the audio goes off. So what happens is that we just kind of constantly bicker about the GPS because I missed their turn because I couldn't hear, I couldn't see it. But we did eventually get there after I got lost a couple of times. And we got to the wake, and I didn't know how we were going to spend 2 hours there. But when we got there, I mean, it was just packed. And I realized how strong the family that my sisters had married into. And we have a very loose family. We don't really pay attention to our cousins in the West Coast. In like Taiwan, I never see my dad's brothers. And I just realized that, this was Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, there were people who did not come. The reason they didn't come is because they were hosting a Super Bowl party. So there were probably 80 people there on very short notice. And the most touching moment was, I guess, when just seeing, I guess, my brother-in-law's dad just sitting there like, he was just chilling in the back of the room, and all of his family were just, talking. So I think he knew that he was in good hands. But it was just weird because we're related by marriage, not by blood. And the next day at the mass, it was all Spanish. I mean, literally. I mean, they didn't have a single word of English. And when I got there, I got there late. It was kind of embarrassing. I drove there. We got kind of lost with the GPS again. So when I got there, I drove in the parking lot, and I fought there, and this guy was yelling at me, get out, you're blocking the hearse. So I drove out, and when this guy's motioning where to go. And so I went he motioned me in front of the church, and he's like, park in that spot. And it's a parallel parking spot, not very parallel parking. So I just tried to parallel park, and this guy behind me is honking me, and all the people were coming out of the church because the hearse was being unloaded. So my entire brother-in-law's family was watching me try to parallel park. And it took me like 4 or 5 tries. It's just, we were delaying the funeral. But so when we got in, you could tell when my sister arrived because her son was like, one was like, Dad! Dad! And everyone's like turning around like, oh, wow, what's this? I mean, it just kind of felt like we were really like in the back, we weren't really there. But so when my sister, I guess, towards the end of the mass, I mean, it was all Spanish, but there's this guy who's like very unassuming, but he had the most beautiful voice, and that needed no translation. I mean, we could really appreciate it. And towards the end, my sister's like, oh, because my 3-year-old niece, she just kind of like ran off because they were, there's the end of the ceremony, they're pushing the coffin on the cart, and she just ran up to her dad, and she pushed her grandmother's coffin for like 5 seconds, and she lost interest. And I thought that was really touching. But I mean, at the end, we decided we weren't going to go to the funeral. So I guess when they were laying, I guess, my brother-in-law's mother to rest, and it was a very honest, cold day, me and my father were basically bickering over the GPS on how to get to the Secaucus station.